can talk in my speaker for a second. Is that a second? Second? No.
Do you want the air conditioner? I don't think it's been on all day.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the ordinary meeting of the Council of Thursday, the 2nd of May 2024. Before we start, I'd just like to let you know that we are live streaming tonight. So if you could just tell all your friends and family to like and follow our Facebook page, that'd be great. Declaration. The Shire of Manjimup respectfully acknowledges the Noongar people as the traditional custodians of the lands in which we work throughout the region, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. Announcements by the President. I would just like to acknowledge the fantastic events that were held on Anzac Day. The events that were held in all 4 of our towns is a true reflection of the gratitude that we all share for the people that had put their lives on hold to go and fight for our freedom. I'd also like to acknowledge the families that they had left behind and pay my respects to them. We also, through the past week, a number of the councillors and I attended a dry meeting in Yornup. Although it is raining today, this doesn't mean that it's the end of the hardships for farmers. With over 300 people that came to that meeting, it was very evident that the widespread hardship that our farmers are facing is very evident. So what I would ask is that although we can't bring the rain with a rain dance, we can't necessarily make the hay at this point. We can keep an eye on the people that live next door to us, the people that we pass in the streets. Just keep an eye on those around you and ask if people are okay. These are the people that are normally very strong and they don't like to talk about their feelings. It's important that we do engage with them and make sure that they realise that they are supported in this quite difficult time. Apologies, attendance. Apologies 3.1, there are none. 3.2, approve leave of absence, there are none. Section 4, declarations of interest, Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Madam President. I have 3 declarations. The first one is an impartiality declaration from Councillor Omaday in relation to item 9.9.1. Which has to do partially with the CRC in Pemberton, and the nature of the interest is that Councillor Omaday is a member of the CRC. I have an impartiality interest from Councillor De Campo in relation to item 9.12.1, which has to do with the review of a council policy in regards to the road use permit type loads, and the nature of the interest is that he owns a transport company. And I have a financial interest from staff member, our acting Director of Development and Regulation, Mr. Giadresco, in relation to item 9.5.3 that has to do with land clearing on Woffs Road. And the staff member has a financial interest in common with someone involved in that report. And that officer has not had any part in preparation of that agenda item.
Thank you. Section 5 is public question time. 5.1, response to public questions taken on notice. Why did the Shire stop using public consultation after 2010 on the Old Vass Road issue? Response to question: road projects typically do not go out to a wider public consultation. In the case of Old Vass Road, as of 2013, Old Vass Road was placed on the Main Roads WA 2030 Roads of Significance document. In 2014, Southwest Development Commission Southwest Blueprint document, the road was listed as a regional priority for sealing. Further, it has been part of the discussions for the Road Infrastructure Advisory Committee. As a result of these outcomes and council resolutions in 2019 and 20 in the 2019 and 20 financial year, the Shire sought funding to commence the planning stages for the upgrade of Old Vass Road. 5.2 Public question time. Under meeting procedure determined by the Shire of Manjimup Standing Orders Local Law 2013, this is the only opportunity for members of the public to ask up to a maximum of 2 questions of council. There is no further opportunity to question the Shire of Manjimup during the meeting. Questions can be asked on any Shire matter, not just on issues included in the meeting agenda, and each person shall have up to 3 minutes to ask their questions, which may be extended by an additional 3 minutes where considered appropriate by the presiding member. Persons asking questions are entitled to a response unless the question is declared out of order by the presiding member. If a matter requires further investigation, that response may be in writing. Any person asking questions of the council must state their correct name and address, as this will form part of the public record of the meeting, and are asked to supply any notes for the minutes. Thank you. Are there any public questions?
I do. Is this on? But I'll just say, my name's Denise Jenkins, but I just would like to say, because this is being live streamed, I would not like to give my address. Is that absolutely necessary? Simply because I'm a JP, I've been threatened twice. I don't put my home address anywhere, and I would prefer not to. I can give you my work address, I can give you email, I can give you post office box, but I'm not real keen on doing, and I don't think we really should.
Mr. CEO?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, ex-councillor Jenkins. No, you're not obliged to give us your specific address, particularly as it's live streamed. If we require to follow up with an answer to your question, we need to know where to send it. So maybe if you can leave us
A post office address?
a post office address
Okay,
or
post
an
office
email address. So you don't have to do it right now. That's fine.
I'll do it now, I don't mind. It's post office box 1228 Manjimup. Now, my question that Councillor De Campo decided that he'd get in first and ask was going to be around Taliesin. When you stop being a councillor, you don't stop being interested in what's happening, but you feel a bit like a mushroom because you don't know what's going on. So I wanted to know what was happening, and I got from your answer to Councillor De Campo that you're in negotiations. Now, I just wanted to tell you that I have a friend who, people here might remember, Tom Busher, that worked for the Development Commission. He now works for Alcoa. And he was telling me the other day that Alcoa, 20 years ago, the community went to them and said, you know, you need to put something back into our community. There's 2 shires there, the Shire of Waroona and the Shire of Harvey. So 20 years ago, they negotiated 10 cents a tonne to be put into a sustainability fund. So they've got the Alcoa Waroona Sustainability Fund and the Alcoa Harvey Sustainability Fund. Now, 10 cents gets put into that, 5 cents gets distributed out, and 5 cents stays for ongoing, it's a financial stream to keep going after the mine's closed. Now, that was 20 years ago at 10 cents a tonne. Taliesin has just announced a $6.3 billion net profit. Now, I don't reckon we should go to them and say, you know, we've got this wish list. I think you should sit down and say, you have a responsibility, even though it's not in our shire, but they're drawing from our shire. I think it's much bigger than that. You should be doing similar to what Alcoa does, remembering that Alcoa has a $60 million profit and Taliesin $6.3 billion. So I was just hoping that you would think higher than that, think of really big time. And just go for it, because that is huge. And even if prices go down, because they have such a high grade lithium and they have low manufacturing, or whatever they call it, they're making a fortune. So even if prices go down, they just flog it to somebody else. So you need to go in big, 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 big. And that's all I just wanted to say. And then I need a microphone, because when I'm sitting there, while I was listening to you all discussing, I needed to say lots of things, and I need a light. So next time, I don't have to stand up. Thanks.
Former Councillor Jenkins, how's the piano going?
Oh, and so good. I can do dances right there.
Thank you, Madam Madam President. Thank you, ex-Councillor Jenkins, for the question. Yeah. I was working hard to pick the question out of that statement.
What are you doing?
Thank you. That's what I thought the question was. The Director of Community Services and myself met with the grants team, the senior grants people at Taliesin earlier this week. The concept of an ongoing fund wasn't discussed, but I like the idea, and I think it's worthwhile, and I think it's got merit, and the next opportunity we get, we'll have that, we'll take it up with them.
You can, I don't know, do you remember, did you ever have anything to do with Tom Busher, who worked for the Southwest Development Commission? Gail does, and you do. He said he would be quite happy to tell you how they went about it. So you can contact him if you like. Yeah, you can talk to him. Yep.
Nothing's changed. Thank you.
Madam President, Mr CEO, councillors, staff. My questions will come relating to 5...
Sorry, can I just get your name?
Oh, sorry,
Thank
Sam
you.
Karen Phyllis Manjimup. My questions will come at the end relating to 5 Brockman Street, Manjimup. On the 21st of the 10th of 21, I submitted a tender for the following works. Structural repairs, completion of the structural repairs in accordance with the structural engineer's drawings. The rear courtyard, demolition and removal of the rear steel staircase, demolition and reconstruction of accessible compliant toilet and adjustment plumbing and a new slab, modifications of the existing single toilet, demolition and reuse of existing courtyard, relocation of air conditioning units and other service equipment as required. The rear roof deck, supply and installation of a rear roof deck to the rear of the building in accordance with the scope of works. And the 2-storey addition, complete the 2-storey addition using a steel frame construction with associated fire rated wall system on the ground and first floor in accordance with the scope of works. Installation of a supplied lift, provisional sum for electrical works, provisional sum for plumbing works. It's my understanding that this council chose not to go ahead because my price of $562,970 was excessive, too dear. It's my understanding now that you've moved to reconsider those works. My questions are, the 3 Shire staff on salaries that spent nearly a year there working and the hired help that came with them, right? And the scope of works they completed in comparison to the scope of works that my tender was rejected, I would like to know the costs spent to date and what you're preparing to spend to complete the works in accordance to get that building compliant. How it was ever leased as a non-compliant building is beyond me, because that's a breach and I don't understand how that works. So I would like that in a formal response before I seek further clarification from the Minister. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kim Starkey and Quentin Starkey from Manjimup, 46 Hospital Ave, because you do have our item on the agenda today, which is a partial Airbnb. just wanted to get up because obviously we actually received quite a lot of support for the application. Being in the food safety industry and my husband being in local business here, we saw that there is, as well as everyone knows, that there's quite an issue with accommodation finding in the area for anyone. But for myself personally, food safety auditors are currently having to stay in Walpole or Pemberton to do Manjimup and Bridgetown auditing. This is a real issue, and it's a cost to the local farmers and businesses and the manufacturing. It's also kind of an effect on our future growth. So with that in mind, and with that in mind that we weren't growing our family any further, and we were in a 5-bedroom, 2-bedroom, very large house, we looked at making the master bedroom suite into a partial Airbnb. We're living in the house ourselves, and obviously we've considered our own family environment and the effects on the neighbourhood. So when we went to put the application in, we spoke to our neighbours first and foremost, and we came and spoke to the Shire, and we put the application first, not retrospectively, as I know has been a previous issue. I just wanted to say that we'd looked at everything that had been put in for the item, and we could see no issues with how you're looking to approve it. It's more a statement that we have no desire to grow further than a maximum of 2 people occupancy. We certainly don't want anyone long time staying. We want it as a partial Airbnb that will be used by corporates. We're not even really looking at it being as a lively or entertaining people coming to stay, that are coming here to work in the area to work as professionals. So that's it from us.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thank you.
Andy Russell from Jaeger Up. And just to confirm, we're only allowed 2 questions?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so the first question I won't ask, but I will say that that was an unacceptable answer to my question last week. You didn't address the question, avoided it, and there's been no public consultation, etc., etc. So I'll skip asking that question. I was going to rephrase the question so you could understand it. So a couple of questions then. Has the Shire, and this is to do with Old Vass Road again, has the Shire designated a speed limit for the planned Old Vass Road project? We're all very concerned about that. And the second question, we all know that the original European road system was implanted on an Indigenous pathway system, Pirrup Road, Old Vass Road, linking significant sites, Graphite Road, Muir Highway. They're all Aboriginal pathways. The Europeans didn't invent those pathways. And so my question is, how come the process never involved Indigenous consultation with Old Vass Road, when we know that Old Vass Road links Beetle Up, Falls, the Heartbreak Pools on the river there? Why didn't we address them, consult with them? So we've had no public consultation and no Indigenous consultation. And my question is why? Thanks.
Thank you. Do you want to say that? Director of Works and Services.
Madam Shire President, the speed limit, so there's no speed limit that is imposed on a road until it's built. We're designing it for an 80 to 90 kilometre speed limit. Once the road's constructed, finally, so the whole road from Pemberton North to Old Vass Road, once that's constructed, that's when a speed limit will be applied formally. In relation to consultation with traditional owners, the Shire followed the process as it sees from the Aboriginal Heritage Act, and that was to do its due diligence assessment, which it did, and found that there was no Aboriginal cultural heritage on site, and it left it at that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor?
President, CEO, councillors. Dean French from Old Vass Road. You probably all know I've been pretty vocal about getting this thing sealed, but I will like to give the Manjimup Shire a bouquet for resheeting our end of Old Vass Road. It's given us some relief from the terrible state that it has been in, but you can't make strawberry jam out of pig's ears. So the other thing I'd like to do is give some really big credit to the crew that actually work on the road. They did a fantastic job. They're extremely polite. The traffic was managed very well because there is a lot of it. They did a very good job. And the trucks that drove to deliver the gravel, they did a really sensible job in the way that they approached the traffic and the use of Old Vass Road, because they did have to travel the length of it. And the final trim was done extremely well, and we're happy with it as it is now. But give it another 25 mils of rain and we'll see. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. French. Are there any other questions? That's it. Thank you. Okay. Item 6, presentations. Petitions. There is none. Presentations. There are none. Deputations. Do we have a... We don't... No, Jess? No deputation? Jess? Do you know about the deputation? Can't come? Okay, thank you. We'll, we were to have a presentation by the local sergeant. It appears the rain is keeping him busy. 6.4, delegate reports, there are nil. And 6.5, conference reports, there are nil. Would someone like to confirm the previous minutes, please? Councillor De Campo.
Yes, Madam President. Could I confirm that the minutes, could I move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 11th of April 2024 be confirmed as a true and accurate record?
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ivey. We'll take a vote on those councillors. All those in favour? Is carried 9-0. Section 8, motions of which previous notice has been given. There is nil. Section 9, officers' reports. For the interest of the gallery, I will explain how we are about to consider the agenda items for this meeting. All councillors have had the agenda for 1 week, giving us time to thoroughly review each item. This meeting is the only time that councillors are able to formally debate an agenda item. Soon I will read out each item listed in the agenda, and any councillor will be able to identify an item they wish to debate. These items will be listed on the board behind me. All items not identified by councillors to be debated will be moved in accordance with the officer's recommendation in one motion as listed in the agenda and moved en bloc for voting purposes. If your item is not listed on the board and it is moved en bloc, it will be passed as per the officer's recommendation. Following this, council will consider the remaining items in agenda order. Okay. 9, Business Directorate. 9.2, Corporate and Governance. 9.2.1, Proposed holding over of Windy Harbour Professional Fishermen's Leases is taken out. 9.3.1, Shire Financial Payments for March 2024. Statutory Planning. 9.5.1, Delegated Planning Decisions March 2024. 9.5.2, Partial Change of Use for Dwelling to Holiday House, Lot 391 in brackets 46, Hospital Avenue, Manjimup. 9.5.3, Proposed land clearing of lots.
Yes, please.
9,770, 50, 9767, 9768 and 9766 in brackets 260 Woffs Road, Glenorran is taken out. 9.5.4, Proposed rural pursuit and wayside stall at lot 13374 in brackets 28519 Southwestern Highway, Middlesex. Is certainly, thank you.
There's been an alternative motion. Was that put by staff? Also, I have to put that in your line.
Is taken out. Thank you. 9.5.5, Proposed industry extractive at lot 10910 in brackets 879 Middlesex Road, Smithbrook. Nope, that's in. Community and Recreation Services, 9.9.1. Request for clarification of Pemberton Community Resource Centre Lottery West request
Yes, could I have that out,
is
please?
taken out. 9.9.2, proposed construction of replica tobacco kiln Manjimup Heritage Park is absolute and must be taken out. 9.12, technical services. 9.12.1, proposed review of council policy. 9.1.1, road use approved for permit type loads. 9.12.2, Old Vass Road update, request for activity notice by Carrick Aboriginal Corporation
Can I have that out, please?
is taken out. 9.13 works. 9.13.1 quarterly report January to March 2024 works and services. 9.16 advisory committees. 9.16.1 unconfirmed minutes of the Northcliffe Forest Park Advisory Committee meeting held on the 20th of March 24 is absolute. 9.16.2 unconfirmed minutes and revised terms of reference of the Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting held on the 27th of March 2024. 9.16.3 unconfirmed minutes of the Pemberton Town Activation Advisory Committee meeting held on the 9th of April 2024 is absolute. 9.16.4 unconfirmed minutes of the Plant Replacement Committee meeting held 26th of March 2024. Unconfirmed 9.16.5 unconfirmed minutes of the Road Infrastructure Advisory Committee meeting held the 26th of March 2024 is absolute and taken out. Would someone like to move that recommendation, please? Councillor Omadei.
Madam President, I move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the Council officers and committee reports on pages 1 to 89 of the agenda, with the exception of those that are on the board.
Is there a seconder? Councillor De Campo. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Okay, page 8. 9.2.1, proposed holding over of Windy Harbour professional fishermen's leases. Someone, Councillor Omadei.
Madam Chair, I'll read out the recommendation rather than as per the officer recommendation, but I move that Council authorise the Chief Executive Officer to 1. Hold over the professional fishermen's leases on sites 204, 205, 207, 306 and 307, reserve 38881 Windy Harbour on a monthly basis after their respective expiry dates until the Windy Harbour Management Plan is updated and implementation plan is adopted by Council and the land use and the lease conditions are reviewed. Now, the reason, and 2, extend the period of time for the requirement to sell or assign the lease of Site 205 Windy Harbour with the period of holding over of the lease. Now, the reason I read it out, Madam President, is because there has been some anxiety by those, I think there are 7 leaseholders in the fishermen's area. Councillors will recall that we had a viable fishing industry located in Windy Harbour that was operating for a number of years, and as time has passed on, there are still some fishermen that have licences, but they don't have any real security of tenure over their
Councillor Omadei.
Sorry.
I think you just moved the motion. We haven't had a second.
Oh,
yet.
I'm sorry. Oh, that was up to you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
I'll
you,
second the
Councillor De
motion.
Campo.
Thank you. Yeah.
Councillor Omadei.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm pretty keen to progress this, because if people are watching on the live stream, they'll need to know some of the reasons why we are adopting the approach we are. The Windy Harbour Management Plan was due for renewal, I think, in 2017, and quite a bit of time has elapsed since then. These people need to know what the future holds for them, and by holding them over, whilst there's a bit of uncertainty because the period is quite short, we understand from the Officer, the Director of Development and Regulation, the Acting Director of Development and Regulation, that that staff will be fast tracking the renewal of the Windy Harbour Management Plan, and this really is to let them know that we are concerned for their future, and that we will be discussing the long-term future of their leases when the Windy Harbour Management Plan is in place.
Thank you. Councillor De Campo.
No, thank you, Madam President.
Are there any speakers against? Let's put it to the vote then, councillors. All those in favour? It's carried 9-0. Thank you. Page 26. 9.5.3, proposed land clearing at lots 9770, 50, 9767. Thanks, Joth. 9768 and 9766, in brackets 260 Wass Road, Glenorran. There is a financial interest, so we have the manager to step in. Thank you. Moving.
Madam President, before I move, could I just acknowledge two former councillors in the gallery and a former president? Welcome along. It's good to see you here tonight. And welcome to the rain. I'd like to move an alternate recommendation, Madam President, and it is that, and it's quite long, so bear with me. Council 1, subject to the applicant demonstrating that the Minister for the Environment and Department of Water and Environment finalises the appeal process on clearing permit CPS 9047/1 and granted approvals. I, delegate authority, I as in I, not me. Delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to grant approval in accordance with Part 10 and Clause 5.5 of the Local Planning Scheme of Number 4. Grant approval for the proposed land clearing at Lot 50, Lot 9766, Lot 9767, Lot 9768 and 9770 Waffs Road, Glenorran application in brackets TP46/2024 in accordance with the plans and specifications contained at attachment 9.5.2 in brackets 1 and subject to the following conditions. A, the development hereby approved is to be carried out generally in accordance with the plans and specifications submitted with the application, and these shall not be altered and / or modified without the prior knowledge and written consent of the Shire of Manjimup in, brackets, reference 1 document title revised clearing area, date received 1 March 24. B, the works involved in the implementation of the development must not cause a nuisance to neighbours through dust and / or sand drift. In the event that the Shire of Manjimup is made aware of the existence of such problems, measures such as installation of sprinklers, use of water tanks, mulching or other land management systems as appropriate shall be installed or implemented to the satisfaction of the Shire of Manjimup. C, the applicant is to implement best practice measures to mitigate the risk of spread of dieback, weeds, disease and clearing and the clean-up of the property, during clean-up of the property. Advice to applicant. 1. Where clearing of the land is involved in any proposed development, the approval of the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation will be required under the provisions of the Environmental Protection Act of 1986 and Country Areas Water Supply Act of 1947. 2. No clearing of trees or vegetation is permitted in the public reserve or reserves adjacent to the application site without the prior approval of the Shire of Manjimup. 3. Where the applicant is proposing any carting of produce from the property, it is to connect with the Shire's technical services to discuss permit requirements. And 4. The applicant is reminded that all development, works and use requires prior planning approval of the Shire of Manjimup due to the special control area overlay on the property. Point 2. In the event that the Minister for the Environment and Department of Water and Environment do not grant approvals for the clearing permit CPS 90474/1/1, await a further council report to consider refusing the application referred to in point 1.1 above. And the reason is that in the event DWER grants approval for the proposed clearing, it'll set a clear process for the resolution of the application.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Mylan. Councillor De Campo, did you want to speak to the...
Thank you. To me, this is a very simple, bureaucratic, you might use the word bungle for want of a better word. There's a special control zone or area that is over this particular bit of land. There's maybe a dozen, less I think than that across the Shire, would be right, less than a dozen across the Shire in priority ag, meaning that we as the governing body have to give approval to clear the property. However, we have no statutory or legal right to give approval in relation to the environmental regulations or water regulations. So we are giving a token approval or refusal for this application. By giving an approval, sends a clear indication to the department that we would like to see more horticultural activity in our Shire. We'd like to give a positive approach to the applicant's application to the department, and we would like to see more activity out that side of town in relation to horticulture. What I really dislike in relation to this, though, is when a tennis ball sits in the court forever. And that's an analogy, obviously, but when department kicks the ball back to us and we kick the ball back to you, make the decision. No, you make the decision. This gets it out of our court. It allows, if the department approves it, it allows that just to go ahead with the authority of the CEO. It means that it doesn't have to have another report written to come back to council. It gives confidence to the applicant that we support him in his endeavours, and it certainly gives the department an indication of how we feel in relation to the application. So I really urge you to support this, get it off our table, kick these things out of the building because we've got way too many of them hanging around where we can solve it. I mean, if the department gives an approval, it will just be back here seeking an approval from us anyway. So let's do it tonight, get it off our table and get it off our books. I urge you to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mylan.
No, I just wish to endorse the application and endorse the comments by Councillor De Campo. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against the alternative? Would you like to, well, there's no debate, so we're good. Okay, councillors, can we vote on the alternative, please? All those in favour? Is carried 9-0. Thank you. Page 30, sorry. Page 36. Oh, thanks, Jules. 9.5.4, proposed rural pursuit at Wayside Stall, lot 13374 in brackets 28519 in brackets Southwestern Highway, Middlesex. Councillor Darren.
Hoping you'll indulge me for one moment. I believe my children are watching on the live streaming and are screaming at that, thinking that it's FaceTime and don't understand why mummy's not saying hello. So, hello, girls. And everybody else who's watching. And I'm really glad that we have this opportunity for our broader community to be able to see what we're doing and see these processes. So on this item, I would like to move an amended recommendation that Council 1 defer consideration of the proposed rural pursuit and wayside stall TP 22/2024 at lot 13,374 in brackets 28519 Southwest Highway, Middlesex, for a period of 21 days in order to consult further with Main Roads WA to workshop an acceptable outcome to proceed with the proposed development. 2, in the event an outcome acceptable to Main Roads WA is achieved, delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to approve application TP 22/2024, subject to the following conditions. The development hereby approved is to be carried out generally in accordance with the plans and specifications submitted with the application, and these shall not be altered and or modified without the prior knowledge and written consent of the Shire of Manjimup. B, prior to the commencement of the approved use, the applicant is to supply a copy of their public liability insurance to the Shire of Manjimup within 2 months of the date of this approval. C, the produce sold shall be restricted to that grown or made from items grown on the subject lot. D, the development hereby approved must not create community safety concerns or otherwise adversely affect the amenity of the subject locality satisfaction of the Shire of Manjimup. E, prior to the occupation or commencement of the use, a sign application will need to be submitted to both the Shire and Main Roads WA as a separate application for planning approval, and any other condition or conditions deemed necessary by Main Roads WA for the development to proceed. And 3, should Main Roads WA advise it does not support the proposal after further consultation, this item will be returned to Council at its ordinary meeting to be held on the 23rd of May 2024 for determination.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor De Campo. Councillor Darren.
Yes. So the reason for this amendment is that Main Roads WA have made contact with the Shire after reading the officer's report on this proposal to reaffirm that they don't support the proposal as provided. They have asked to further consultation and would like to discuss additional options. Now, I know there are differing opinions on this, and I will reserve that for if it does come back for debate at the next council meeting. This is an olive branch for us to ensure that as much consultation with Main Roads WA is done as we can, and try to find a way to for the benefit of all stakeholders and to come to the best outcome, but with a very clearly defined timeline. So that within 21 days, we must ensure that something is decided upon or agreed upon with Main Roads, or bring it back for us to make a decision, and we will, as our authority is, to make a decision on this. So I encourage you to support the motion so that we can continue building strong and positive relationships with our stakeholders, but also ensure that these things are resolved in a timely manner for our community members as well.
Thank you. Councillor De Campo. Thank you. Are there any speakers against the alternative? Thank you. Councillors, can we put that to the vote? Thank you. All those in favour? Is 9-0. Thank you. 53. 9.9.1, request for clarification, Pemberton Community Resource Centre, Lotteries West request.
Thank you, Madam President.
Councillor De Campo.
I have an alternative, and it is that Council 1 write off the Pemberton Community Resource Centre invoice amount of $14,108 ex GST in brackets to the bad debt account, and 2, advise the Pemberton Community Resource Centre that it supports a variation to the Lottery West grant for remaining funds.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ventris. Councillor De Campo.
Look, thank you, Madam President. This is an issue that's not going to go away. It's a small community group, and in fact, in the officer's recommendation originally, it agreed to giving consideration to, during the 24-25 budget deliberation process, of allocating an ex gratia payment of $11,835 to the Pemberton Community Resource Centre. All this does is tries to foster goodwill within the community, rebuild relationships in a project that has been plagued by various issues, and will again get this off of our books, and it will certainly alleviate the community centre, the resource centre of the need to pay the bill, which we all know that small community groups have challenges going forward within our communities. So I urge you to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ventris. No. Are there any speakers against? Councillor Ivey.
I don't support this alternative. The community resource centres are fully funded by state and federal funds, and this is just another case of ratepayers having to top up this community group again.
Thank you. Councillor Marlin.
Yeah, I'd like to speak against the alternative motion. I think we discussed this at length at our previous...
Are there any speakers for the motion?
Thought you called.
Are there any other speakers?
I'd like to speak for the amended motion, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm a member of the CRC and supportive of the President John Sabia, who's hard-working, and the Executive Officer, Gay Van Hazendonk. Thank you. Van Hazendonk, who is a very active member of that organisation. Now, I understand that the $16,000 left in the account is something that the CRC can apply to the Lotteries Commission to pay for the organising of the grant. There's 7 different organisations in the co-location, of which the CRC is the organising body for all the acquittals. Now, I understand that if the CRC applies to the Lotteries Commission are favourable to them keeping the $16,000 to cover their expenses. Now, in this item, if you have a look at it, there was a comment made by Director of Community Services in relation to you could claim between 0 and 10% of the total cost of the fit out, which was some $270,000 odd. And it was deemed by staff that 5% or 50% would it be an appropriate amount of money, when in fact it probably deserves something like 60%. So the question then is that if the CRC can go to the Lotteries Commission and claim those $16,000 without the consent of the council, why is this coming back to us? In the end, as was mentioned in the previous item under the last council meeting, the council was supportive of the CRC claiming back the $14,000 should they agree to pay it in the first place. So, and that would have to be in the next year's financial budget. We understand that the budget should be finalised for the final acquittal of the whole of that project by Karen Phillips Builders, and that will be a very interesting time when we can find out exactly what did happen with the cost overruns. So, you know, the CRC has been through quite some stressful times in coordinating and acquitting all of the fit out. There's a disagreement between us, the CRC, and council as far as what is fit out and what isn't fit out. And in this case, I believe that the $16,000 will finish up with the CRC anyway, and I'm at a loss to understand why this has come back to council for its consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Marlin, did you still want to speak?
Yes. Thanks, Madam President. I'm speaking against the alternative motion because I think I'd like to go back toward the officer's recommended motion. Not because I don't think the CRC deserve the money, not because I don't think they do a great job, and not that I'm intimately aware of all their workings, but like all community groups, I'm sure they do a terrific job. But in the interests of accountability, and if they've incurred a bill, whether it be from the Shire or anyone else, for some works that have been completed, then I think it would be good to pay the bill. And the Shire officer's recommendation makes provisions in here for them to receive an ex gratia payment for the cost of their management of the project as per their request. So it might be a $2,000 or $3,000 difference in the sort of wash up of it all, but the accounting procedures would be, I think, more open and accountable if they were to pay the bill. We were to then follow the officer's recommendation and look for a way to reimburse them for the good work that they've done in the past, rather than do a sort of a quid pro quo swapping type understanding of it, just for the ease of making it go away. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers for the motion? Councillor Darren.
This was a hard one. And I actually agree with all of the comments that have been made, both by those speaking for and against this one. What it has come down to me about was that I absolutely agree. This is the officer's recommendation is the most transparent process to finalise this. However, I do think the questions around whether the invoice that we have raised is reflective of the expectation of that funding being fit out money, and having seen the items that were included in some of this, I must admit, for myself, I too would question whether plumbing works and insulation and lining really falls in fit out. And in my mind, I would interpret that as construction works, which, and I know there's a discussion around what was agreed to and what was not, but at the end of the day, there are two differing opinions on this, and I have to be able to interpret it from my perspective, taking into account the things that have been said on both sides of this argument, And if this was presented to me without either of those opinions or thoughts on this, I wouldn't deem those things as fit out. I would deem them as to be part of construction works. And therefore, I can understand why there is concern that these particular items wouldn't. Now, I don't think that's the entire invoice. And I possibly think the answer to this should have been that there was actually part of this invoice that should be paid and part of this invoice that maybe shouldn't have been paid. And that may have been a more accurate way of doing things. But I certainly, having seen the invoices that backed up our invoice and the documentation, I'm not sure that I would have been comfortable to say that, yes, this fit into a fit out, keeping in mind I have not seen the actual Lottery West application or the grant agreement. So that also makes it difficult when we don't understand the complexities of what it is that's actually been agreed to. All I can base it on is what we've been provided, and that is that this was for fit out, and some of those items certainly weren't fit out. Given that I'm not comfortable that all of the aspects of the $14,000 are reasonable to be claimed on this particular invoice, therefore I can't support the entire invoice. And yes, possibly if it had been, some of that had been cleared up and separated, then maybe my position on this would have been different. But again, I understand it's a really complicated situation, and I do understand the perspective of both sides. But that's my take on it.
Are there any other speakers on this item? Councillor De Campo, did you want to do your wrap?
Thank you, Madam President, for the opportunity. I'd just like to say...
Hang on, Councillor De Campo.
I'm sorry?
So just a procedural matter. Councillors, if the vote on this item is not carried, then there is effectively no decision on this, and I don't have the read of the room on this. So I think it'd be wise if somebody foreshadowed maybe the officer's recommendation, and you can amend that or...
I'll foreshadow that officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do we need to second that?
Thank you. In answer to some of the queries or concerns during the debate, it is not unusual that we support small community groups or even those groups that might be funded by other groups. In fact, I mean, the Pemberton Sports Club is now funded to the tune of $58,000 more than what it used to be. Today we saw the football ovals and an increase to their budget to manage their playing fields over the next year. I think the Northcliffe group of the CRC Visitor Centre and Library has had money over recent years to adjust its budgets. And so it isn't unusual that we have these things presented. It is my belief, and you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, the Director of Community Services, I mean, these invoices have been paid. We are recouping the money. Would that be right? As a question, as a part of the closing?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. The Shire has covered the cost of these items.
Correct. So in response to Councillor Moylan's concerns is that the Shire has already paid the invoice. We are now asking a small community group with some paid people, but most likely some volunteers, to now pay us to recoup that money. Completely agree with Councillor Darren's observations, and as I said, this is just to get this off our table. It will come back with in another form, whether it's as a part of the budget deliberation and the foreshadowed motion that I've done, or whether it is with another motion of notice to deal with this in a different way. Doesn't matter how you cut the cake. Eventually we're going to pay for this. So I just urge you to do it now, create that goodwill within the community in Pemberton and start rebuilding bridges. I urge you to support the alternative recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor De Campo. Okay, councillors, can we vote on this? All those in favour of the alternative recommendation? And all those against? Thank you. What'd you get that? Carried 6-3. Carried 6-3. Okay. 58, 9.9.2, proposed construction of replica tobacco kiln, Manjimup Heritage Park. No, we haven't. Councillor De Campo.
As per officer recommendation, you've got to get on the camera as much as you can, Madam
I am
President.
thinking
First
this is
night and all.
what's going on. Would someone like to second? Thank you, Councillor Omadé. Councillor De Campo, would you like to have a chat about this item?
Look, again, this is one of those items, Madam President, that it's been in the strategic plan for the timber park for a long time. It is a donation by a reputable builder and an organisation, pretty well the Macedonian community within the Shire. Tobacco was one of the largest exploits or horticultural exploits in our Shire for a long time. And in fact, the Shire of Manjimup had the largest cluster of Macedonians within the state. 40% of Macedonians lived in Manjimup at one stage. So I think this is a fitting show of that heritage. And I don't know why we would look a gift horse in the mouth to complete a precinct that we could then potentially, and as we discussed today, we don't want too much more on the plate, potentially then go and get some grant money to do interpretive, interactive 3D thingies with eye thingies. Sorry, camera, I can't remember what it's called. VR, virtual reality tours, which would then extend to being an amazing park in the future. So I just urge you to support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Amadou.
Thank you, Madam President. As was mentioned earlier, it's Historical Day today because of the live streaming, but it's also a historical day in relation to the contribution of the Macedonian community to Manjimup. As Councillor Di Campo said, tobacco was very big in this state, in this town and in this district, as far as Northcliffe, all corners of the Shire. Tobacco was grown back in the 50s and was a very vibrant industry at that time. When finally they decided to import tobacco from America, which virtually emasculated the tobacco industry, I think about 3,000 people left Manjimup. In those days we had 1,000 more people than what we have in the district at this stage now. So Karen Phillis brothers, Sam Karen Phillis in particular, is the proponent for this project. It's a very worthwhile project and has been supported widely by the Macedonian community with donations and contributions. I think the only thing that's missing is probably some timelines, but that can be fleshed out in the future. I wouldn't like to see this project linger on. It's been around for more than 12 months, and now we have an item here that I think is quite a positive recommendation by staff. It's a well put together item, and the Shire in the end will finish up with a very historic building that can be visited by all and sundry. Just as an aside, tomorrow is Mr. Batchos's funeral. The Batchos family, 4 young brothers and their families, extended families. There'll be a big group of people from Macedonian background in Manjimup tomorrow for the funeral. And it'll be a good news story for they can talk about during the wake and say, well, look, the Shire of Manjimup is going ahead and commemorating their contribution to this district. I think it's a very positive thing that's being proposed, and I'm very pleased as a great friend of the Macedonian community to support this motion.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against the motion? Fabulous. Councillors, can we put it to the vote, please? All those in favour? It's carried 9-0. Thank you. Page 67, 9.12.2, Old Vass Road upgrade, request for activity notice by Carrick Aboriginal Corporation. Councillor Di Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. I have an alternate motion that I'd like to move. And it is that Council 1 reconfirm its decision to continue with the current approved and funded 2023/24 works program for bitumen sealing of Old Vass Road from and including the Hawke Road intersection, and then continuing approximately 1 kilometre towards Vass Highway, acknowledging all the statutory due diligence and approvals for environment and cultural heritage that have already been obtained for this portion of the Old Vass Road project. 2, direct the Chief Executive Officer not to lodge a voluntary activity statement with the Carrick Aboriginal Corporation for this portion of the Old Vass Road project, in brackets being the bitumen sealing of Old Vass Road from and including the Hawke Road intersection, and then continuing approximately 1 kilometre towards Vass Highway. 3, direct the Chief Executive Officer to prepare and lodge a voluntary activity statement with Carrick Aboriginal Corporation for the remainder of the Old Vass Road project. 4, direct the Chief Executive Officer to investigate the potential for the Shire of Manjimup to enter into a form of Noongar Standard Heritage Agreement with the Carrick-Karak Aboriginal Corporation and the Waggle Kayap Aboriginal Corporation and report findings back to councillors via a workshop. And 5, direct the Chief Executive Officer to liaise with Main Roads Western Australia Regional Roads Group to secure carryover of project funding for Old Vass Road if required.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ventris. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. And I understand this might seem like it could be controversial, but it certainly isn't. During the process of approvals, as we've heard, a due diligence assessment has been of registered, lodged or historic heritage sites has been investigated and dealt with. Multiple consultations have been done. This part of the road has had disturbance over the last 50 years already. In fact, a lot of the fence lines have been wholesale cleared by farmers already. And so it isn't unreasonable to continue with this section of road without a voluntary activity statement. It is fair, though, I've got to say, to lodge an activity statement. Sounds like you're lodging the bass, doesn't it? A voluntary activity statement for the remainder of the road, given that it goes through the national park and that the last couple of kilometres, it wouldn't be a huge impediment to include that in the voluntary activity statement. What this does, though, this item, is that it also investigates the potential, as I said, to form a Noongar Standard Heritage Agreement with both of those groups. And that, if we did, would be on both of our terms, and it would be beneficial for both the corporations and the local government to know where we stand and what we think we should and shouldn't do in areas that aren't registered, because registered areas obviously have to have an activity statement in any case. It would be an untemplated, to get the words right, standard heritage agreement. It would be an untemplated one. And rather than the state coming in and formulating a templated statement, as it would if the the Heritage Act, the draft Heritage Act was enforced in law, most likely that would come down. And we may be seen to be leaders in that area, and we may be seen to be followed by the state if it is an agreement that suits all parties, that allows us to get on with business. And that's what it does, it allows us to get on with business. So I urge you to support this alternate recommendation, allowing us to continue on, as we have heard, that we have RFQs in, we have people ready to go, we are shovel ready, and a lot of work's been done. 477,000, I think, in round figures has been spent so far on Old Vass Road, and it will allow us to continue that, whilst respecting the fact that potentially we should do in the National Park a voluntary activity statement. So I urge you to support this alternative motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor De Campo. Councillor Ventris.
Yeah, I'd just like to make comment that this is consistent with, we're entering to some degree new ground in all areas, the Aboriginal corporations and the council, and this allows us to move forward and to project some goodwill on both sides. Our commitment to basically put a policy in place and to work with the Aboriginal corporation, but at the same time do it in an environment where we don't inadvertently create conflict within the community, and so they can see the road progressing as been decided 8-1 at last meeting. The road will continue, and and the major works on the kilometre we're talking about, the major disturbances like the drain pipes and stuff have already been put in. So that's the main requirement at the moment is the laying of the gravel and the bitumen. So in this situation, it creates goodwill in all parties, both the community, the Aboriginal corporations, and this organisation, to be able to negotiate something that's further than Old Vass Road. It applies it'll apply right across to our road construction and right across our shire. So I think these situations as councillors, we face these dilemmas sometimes where we're trying to keep everybody happy. But I think this alternative, particularly in this case, maintains democracy by the people, for the people. But the important thing is for the greater good. And I think for the greater good, you should support this. It's for the greater good of all parties that we maintain an atmosphere where we can negotiate something that's meaningful going forward, but at the same time maintain our commitment to the community to build a safe road and to follow our strategic plan of achieving safer roads. So I think we can achieve everything that we need to achieve by supporting this alternative, and it's done in a way of goodwill, and that we've considered these, the fact that we already have considered these matters, and hopefully this will be well received by all parties and be seen genuinely as an attempt to form goodwill and go forward in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ventris. Are there any speakers against the alternative motion? Councillor Ivey.
Yes, I would speak against this. I've been a member of the Shire's Reconciliation Action Plan Committee for the past 4 years or so, and this plan has been endorsed by this council. Not submitting this voluntary activity notice to Carrie Carrick as requested will go against everything we have worked towards when we should be establishing and building our relationship with this group. As mentioned at the last meeting, Old Vass Road is the original road through the district constructed by convicts. As Mr Russell has already mentioned, it is well known that most early roads followed ancient Noongar pathways, and Main Roads has commissioned a book about it, and copies are available at the library if anybody would like to read it. There has been some Aboriginal heritage assessments done in the Pemberton region, but they are by no means comprehensive. This does not mean there are no sites of significance along Old Vass Road, only that it hasn't yet been assessed. We should welcome traditional custodians checking over the planned works to build our knowledge of the heritage of this region, and I urge you to vote against it.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Are there any other speakers for the motion? Hang on 2 secs. 4.
Madam Chair,
Thank you, Councillor Moore.
I support the motion. I think it's a very good compromise motion that allows for our dialogue with the Carrie Carrick. I understand we're having breakfast with them tomorrow morning, and as Councillor Ivey is a member of the Reconciliation Action Group, I was the first chairman of that group, so and I know the parties very well. As a matter of fact, Sue Kelly and Alan Kelly and Glenn Kelly are very close friends of mine, of ours going back for decades. And we know that Glenn was the instrumental in getting the Aboriginal the Southwest Land and Sea Council agreement established by the then, I think it was, Barnett government. So what we're seeing here under Councillor De Campo's motion allows us still to have that dialogue with Carrie Carrick. Obviously, we'll be talking about it tomorrow morning. But it also allows us to continue with the work that's been done on Old Vass up until now, and allow the road to be bitumised. There's no doubt in my mind the broad view of the community is that Old Vass Road should be bitumised. By moving this motion, it allows us to communicate with the Carrie Carrick for those remaining parts, but still allows us to go ahead. The alternative, of course, is to go and seek approval from the Main Roads Department to carry over funds, which we've already done for the last 2 years. So carrying over those funds could be problematic for us. I'm in favour of working closely with the Carrie Carrick. Obviously, we've got 6 roads of significance around the district, and there's $450,000 a year to be spent on each one of those roads. And the way the things have panned out in relation to the Aboriginal Heritage Act, we will be required to talk to Carrie Carrick in a voluntary capacity to make sure that we receive outcomes that are suitable for all of the parties concerned. But I am concerned that we've already carried over funds for the last 2 years, and to carry them over for another year I think has a risk attached to it, although I think the Main Roads would see the wisdom to the communication. But I think the compromise is worth considering.
Councillor Miley? Against, thank you.
Thanks, Madam President. Look, I concur with nearly everything that's in this alternative motion. I think what Councillor De Campo has put forward is fabulous, because it actually goes beyond the original Council's recommendation in that it requests that we do proceed with a voluntary activity statement and actually come up with a working arrangement with both the groups in our area, the Carrie Carrick and the Wagga Kayuk, further to the south and east of us. And so I also firmly believe that we want to build Vass Road. I'm committed to doing it. All we're talking about here is the kind of order of things and delaying a project. I believe that we've got the wherewithal and the capacity to convince Main Roads to carry over funds in this exceptional circumstance. It's a learning we're both going through, and as Councillor Ventris pointed out, we're both Carrie Carrick and us are all kind of in uncharted territory. But from my understanding, it's possibly the first time that an Aboriginal group have asked us to consult with them about some particular ground disturbance works that we're undertaking. And we need to move forward with that as a Shire. I think I have few concerns that this will really delay the project. And if it were to, if Carrie Carac, as a group, when they do their assessment, were to look at the little bit that we're doing now and say that we've got some concerns about this, then that's something that I think we should all like to know. And we would need to work around that. So rather than do our little bit of bitumen and then start to do this consultation process, I think we, sadly in some ways, pause what's been a long and drawn out thing for the longer term aim of doing things in a different order. Try and get our ducks in a row rather than we sort of start a little bit and then, you know, see what happens after that. So I don't know if I need to foreshadow an alternative motion, that if you were to vote against this motion here, my alternative motion would be the original staff
Thank you.
recommendation. If you were to vote against this, it would only be good to do that if you're going to vote for the original motion, because or some other amendment to that, because otherwise we'd be left with nothing. So I'll be voting against this motion and hoping that we then defer back to the original councillor motion and we do things in the order that we look after and try, in the interest of goodwill, do it, consult with the Carrie Caracs for this proposal. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Mylan. Are there any speakers, any other speakers? Done. Thank you. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll close the debate. I'm sure we're all committed to reconciliation. There is no doubt about that. In fact, over a number of years, reconciliation was a priority for this council in previous administrations. What is interesting is that Carrie Carac hasn't asked for voluntary activity statements on any of our other projects. Pirrip Road, future for road projects for next year, which most likely you would ask for voluntary activity statements for now, which all follow traditional cultural tracks, as was mentioned. Muir Highway is a government project, government-owned road. Graphite Road, Windy Harbour Road, Middlesex Road, Pump Hill Road, previous projects. It's just interesting that this one has interest in it. What this does is it actually builds our credibility, and it should build our relationship with both of the corporations. We're not saying a blanket no. What we're saying is we've come so far down the track. We have done what is legally required to this point. We've done our due diligence on all of those cultural aspects, environmental approvals and approvals through this chamber to this point in time. But it also recognises that we should establish a relationship and we should most likely do activity statements in the future, which will be borne out as a part of the Standard Heritage Agreement with both corporations. And I'm sure that all of our road projects will be subjected to those activity statements, as they may likely should be, or they may not be if you don't have a culturally significant heritage site in the pathway of your road project. So I urge you to support the alternative recommendation today to give, one, the community support, confidence and clarity over building the road, and two, give a direct pathway to establishing better relationships with both Carrie Carac and Waggle Kayap. It will then give staff a direction on what we'd like to do with Old Bass Road for our community, and also, given, interestingly enough, an announcement of $12 million for trails in Pemberton, which most likely may see Bicentennial Tree Car Park sealed. It will see walk tracks to the river that will need access. And as per our last meeting, where we said, oh, well, you know, nobody may spend any money here, well, by the next meeting we've got $12 million sitting on the table to spend in Warren National Park and other areas in Pemberton. So the government has the confidence. We should show the confidence as well. The most important part of this motion, though, is building a relationship with the corporations, building an ongoing relationship that benefits both parties through the standard agreement that we could reach with them. I urge you to support the motion. Thank you.
Question, Councillor Darren.
To the Shire President, but I expect it'll probably be an answer from the CEO. If the foreshadowed motion, which is the officer's recommendation, was voted on, is there scope for us putting a time frame on Carrick doing their side of this? So basically what I'm asking is, in the officer's recommendation, point 1, could a time frame be included in that, or do you think that that would be unfeasible? Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Councillor Darren, for the question. The council can certainly, so if the motion on the substantive motion fails, that's a big if, and we come to the foreshadowed motion, which is the officer's recommendation, could we amend that motion to put a date on it? The answer is yes. However, I don't know what the Carrick's governance processes are. I understand they've got a Cultural Advisory Committee meeting on the 17th of May. As we heard from a little bit earlier today from the Director of Works and Services, it might take us a few weeks to prepare all of the information required in the activity statement, which would take us up to the 16th of May, and that's probably not enough time for the Cultural Advisory Committee to consider that. Maybe they could call a special meeting. So yeah, while the council can put a time limit on it or a time recommendation, whether it's complied with or not, we can't control. I don't know whether it's ironic or coincidental, but the Standard Heritage Agreement covers such things as timeframes and obligations on both parties in terms of response timeframes.
Thank you. Councillors, can we please vote on the amended motion that Councillor De Campo is amended alternative it has on this piece of paper? Thank you, Councillor Amadei.
It's just a motion.
Thank you. That Councillor De Campo has proposed. All those in favour? 6, 7, and against is 2. Thank you. Carried 7-2. Thank you. Page 73, 9.16.1, unconfirmed minutes of the Northcliffe Forest Park Advisory Committee meeting held on the 20th of March 2024. Councillor Ivey.
I move as per the officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Councillor De Campo. May as well. Councillor Ivey, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor De Campo. All those in, can we put that to vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Thank you. Carried 9-0. Thank you. Page 80. 9.16.3, unconfirmed minutes of the Pemberton Town Activation Advisory Committee meeting held on the 9th of April 2024. Councillor Ventress, is there a seconder? Councillor De Campo. Councillor Ventress, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'd like to formally stand and move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor De Campo. Still second, thank you. Speak to. Councillor De Campo, did you want to speak to the motion? Are there any speakers against the motion? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. 86. 9.16.5, unconfirmed minutes of the Road Infrastructure Advisory Committee meeting held on the 26th of March 2024. Someone like to move it? Councillor Ivey?
I move as per the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Mylan, second it. Thank you. Councillor Ivey, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Mylan, speak to it. Are there any speakers against? We put it to the vote, please, councillors. All those in favour? All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. Okay. Item 10, late reports. None. Questions from members?
I just have a statement, Madam President, if I may. Hang on 2 secs. 11.1, response to questions from members taken on notice. Councillor Omade, will the Shire President advise the Southern Forest Irrigation Committee that the Shire of Manjimup would like to have some input onto the spend of residual funding? My response is the Southern Forest Irrigation Reference Group was announced in October 2022. Between November 2022 to January 23, the group met 8 times, hearing from over 20 growers and stakeholders. The grant scheme resulting from the group and implementation by the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development was announced on Friday, the 19th of April 2024. Questions from members? You can do a statement then. I wanted to congratulate you on the shortest meeting I think we've had since the election. And
Thank you.
Through difficult waters.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. The Southern Forest Irrigation Reference Group was announced in October 2022. Between November 22 and January 23, the group met 8 times, hearing from over 20 growers and stakeholders. Between November 22 and January 23, did the sitting Shire President instruct or advise that the Shire should present to the Southern Forest Irrigation Group in reference to the spend of the $15.3 million? And the second is, during the time that the former Shire President sat on the Regional Road Group, was there any conversation about the adjustment of requirements taking into account the unique environment of the Old Vass Road funding? Thank you. Number 12, motions for consideration at the following meeting. There are none. 13, new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. There is none. 14, applications for the leave of absence. There is none. In closing, I would just like to acknowledge the passing of a very special person within our community, Mr. Neil Howden. Mr. Howden was a huge part of our community. He supported many sporting clubs, many community groups. His passing is an absolute tragedy for the community, and our sympathies go out to his wife. I'd just like to acknowledge that he is a very special man. There being no further business to discuss, I would like to thank those in attendance and close the meeting at 6:51. Thank you.